The night the mountains spoke. I still hear them, every night. That hum rising from somewhere beneath Kholat Syakhl, the mountain the Mansi won't name after dark. When our guides reached the tree line, they stopped, wouldn't go further. We laughed, called them superstitious, called them cowards. We were children playing in a graveyard, too stupid to read the headstones. That was my last night as something human. After that, I became a container, a vessel for memories that eat me from inside out. Listen carefully. I agreed to this interview once, only once. Someone needs to know what happened on that mountain. Not the official version, not the sanitized report with its 27 pages of nothing. The truth, in case something happens to me. No, not in case. When? Because they're calling me back. The hum is getting louder, closer. Every February 1st, at exactly 9:34 p.m., it starts, rising through whatever floor I'm standing on, counting down. And this year, I think I'm going to answer. February 1st, 1959, 9:34 p.m., the last time reality made sense. Snow crunched against the tent canvas, rhythmic, almost musical. The Primus stove hissed in the corner, burning kerosene that smelled like gasoline and heat. Lyudmila sat cross-legged by the Coleman lantern, darning a sock with thread that kept catching in her calloused fingers. Her shadow stretched across the canvas wall, too long, too thin, trembling like something drowning. I remember thinking, this is peace. 10 of us packed into regulation canvas on the eastern slope of Kholat Syakhl. Tired, sore from the climb, but warm, safe. Tomorrow we'd summit, plant our university flag, descend as heroes. Ural Polytechnic Institute would write our names in the record books. I was 19 years old. I believed in mountains and mathematics and the triumph of human will over nature. I was so beautifully, fatally wrong. I was adjusting my sleeping bag, standard issue, wool-lined, smelling of mothballs and old sweat, when Yuri Doroshenko whispered, "Do you hear that?" We froze. The tent went silent except for the wind. Then I felt it. Not heard, felt. A vibration, low frequency, below the range of hearing but not below sensation. My ribcage resonated. My heart stuttered, trying to sync with this wrongness, this pulse that had no business existing in our world. Avalanche? Xena breathed. But her eyes said she didn't believe it. Avalanches roar. Avalanches break. This was different. This was patient, deliberate. This was aware. Igor Dyatlov reached for the entrance flap. His hand stopped 6 inches from the canvas. Someone standing out there. I looked. A silhouette, human-shaped, too tall by a foot, maybe more. Arms that hung past where knees should be. It wasn't moving, but I could hear it breathing. A long, wet inhale that made the tent fabric pull inward like lungs filling. The air pressure changed. My ears popped. "Bear?" Rustam's voice cracked on the word. "Bears don't have fingers." 5 distinct indentations pressed against the canvas from outside. Knuckles. Or something that had learned knuckles. They flexed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Counting us. The hum intensified, burrowed into my skull, burned away thought, filled the empty spaces with fear, primal, ancient, the kind your ancestors knew when they huddled in caves and prayed the things outside wouldn't find the entrance. Lyudmila covered her ears, tears ran down her face. No sound, just water from eyes that had stopped blinking. You know what broke me? What made me understand nothing would ever be right again? The shadow on the tent wall, cast by our kerosene lamp. It was moving against the flame's flicker, sliding down the canvas like oil, independent of light, independent of physics. That's when I knew. Something fundamental had just torn. 10:13 p.m. When the scratching began, first came the smell. Sweet copper mixed with ozone. The air after lightning strikes. But there was no storm. And beneath that, rot. Ancient geological rot. The smell of things that died when the mountains were young. A smell that had no business existing at 3,500 feet in February. Then, scratching. Multiple sources, synchronized. Dozens of points around the entire perimeter. Like claws, like nails, like bone on canvas. Tapping out a rhythm. Mathematical, precise, a pattern, a ritual. Igor grabbed his knife. Standard folding blade, carbon steel, bought in Sverdlovsk for 3 rubles. His knuckles were white. His breathing was shallow. We cut through. We run. Now. Where? Zina was screaming, but her voice came out as a whisper. The air was too thick. Sound moved wrong. Doesn't matter. Away from this. Into the forest. Down the slope. Anywhere but... The blade entered the canvas with a sound like tearing flesh. Cold air rushed in, and with it, silence. Complete, total, absolute. Outside, nothing. No tracks in the snow, no shadows, no explanation. Just white expanse under dead stars and the dark space between cedar trees a mile down at the forest line. Darkness that had texture, weight. Darkness that watched. Maybe it was wind, someone said. I don't remember who. Voices all sounded the same now, hollow. Maybe we're exhausted, hallucinating from altitude. The tent began to glow. Not from our lamp. This was different. Greenish, phosphorescent, seeping through the canvas from outside like the mountain itself was exhaling light. Like something beneath the earth was rising. The hum became language, not words, not Russian or Mansi or any tongue spoken by living men. But I understood it. The way you understand a scream. The way you understand a threat written in your own blood. It said, "You shouldn't be here." Rustem's nose started bleeding, black in the lamplight, thick, wrong. He looked at me. His pupils were too large, reflecting nothing. "Run," he whispered. Then his voice broke. Not from fear, from understanding. Run! 10:17 p.m. When we abandoned everything that made us human, we ran barefoot into February night, -30 Celsius, some in wool socks, Lyudmila barefoot, completely barefoot. The snow burned, not cold, burned, like touching dry ice, like frostbite accelerated, instantaneous. But fear burned hotter. The hum followed, not behind us, everywhere, beneath the earth, oozing from the sky, vibrating in my teeth. I could taste it, copper and static electricity. I looked back once. Our tent glowed from within, pulsing, green light bleeding through canvas. We'd left the lamp burning out. This wasn't the lamp. My feet were numb. My lungs burned from cold air. My vision tunneled. Somewhere behind me, someone was crying. Someone else was praying. The words ran together, became nonsense, became the hum. I ran toward the cedar trees, toward darkness, toward anything that wasn't that light. Tomorrow, investigators will write, "Death by hypothermia caused by an unknown compelling force." Beautiful, bureaucratic, meaningless. Unknown compelling force. 27 pages to say, "We don't know. We'll never know. We're too afraid to know." But I know. I know what descended from Kholat Syakhl that night. I know why the tent was cut from inside. I know why we ran without boots, without coats, without anything but terror in our veins instead of blood. And I know why only 9 bodies were ever found. Because I'm the 10th, and I shouldn't exist. I shouldn't be here, talking to you, breathing, remembering. But every night at 9:34 p.m., the hum starts again, rising through concrete, through steel, through whatever floor I'm standing on, counting. 1, 2, 3. It's almost February again, and this time, I don't think I'm going to run. Recorder clicks off. Interview subject stares at wall for 17 seconds without blinking. When asked if he's all right, he responds, "I can hear it now, can you?" Investigator notes, "No audible sound detected. Interview terminated." The Night the Mountains Spoke, Part 2. 10:47 p.m. When rationality became a luxury we couldn't afford, We ran downhill through snow that reached our knees. Each step burned, not from cold. The burning came from inside, like our leg bones were heating up from marrow outward. My lungs tore at frozen air. Each breath tasted of copper and ozone. Behind us, that presence moved without moving. I can't explain it better. You know the feeling of eyes on you? That animal instinct, millions of years old, that screams, predator? Multiply that by infinity. It wasn't watching us. It was reading us. Every neuron firing, every thought forming, every memory stored. We were open books written in a language it had invented before humans learned to speak. Kolya dropped face first into snow. Just collapsed, like someone had cut his strings. When we hauled him up, his eyes were wrong. Pupils blown wide, swallowing the iris, black holes where brown should be. Like he'd looked at something that shattered the part of the brain that processes three-dimensional space. "It's not following," he whispered. His voice was flat, empty. "We're not running away. We're running toward. Don't you understand? Every step we take is exactly where it wants us. We're not prey. We're invited." "Shut up!" Igor dragged him forward by the jacket. "Keep moving or die here!" But Kolya was right. I felt it. Every step down that slope, the pressure in my skull increased. Like descending in a plane that's dropping too fast. My ears wouldn't pop. The pressure just built, until I thought my skull would crack down the middle and spill understanding I wasn't meant to have. Georgy Krivonyshenko stumbled beside me. His breathing came in wet gasps. "The stories," he wheezed, blood on his lips. When had he bitten his tongue? "The Mansi stories about the sky people, the mountain spirits, the ones who take violators of sacred ground. Those are myths." "Are they?" I didn't answer, because overhead, the stars were wrong. I'd navigated by constellations since I was 12. Winter sky, summer sky. I knew them like my own reflection. But these stars, they formed geometries that shouldn't exist in Euclidean space. Angles that added up to more than they should. Patterns that hurt to perceive, not to look at, but to perceive. To have them exist inside your brain as remembered images. And they were moving, slowly, deliberately, rearranging themselves like pieces on a cosmic board game where we were the stakes. My stomach turned. Not nausea, vertigo, like the ground was rotating beneath me while I stood still. 11:05 p.m., the cedar tree, where prayers go to die. We reached the forest line in a stumbling mass of frozen flesh and breaking minds. The cedar stood there, ancient, massive, its branches twisted into shapes that suggested reaching, grasping, taking. "Fire!" Igor croaked, his voice barely human. "We need—" He didn't finish, didn't need to. Doroshenko and Krivonyshenko started breaking branches. Their hands wouldn't work right. Fingers kept dropping wood. Thumbs bent wrong directions. The cold had gotten into our joints, but this wasn't February cold. This was geological cold. The cold of things buried for millennia. Cold that starts at your center and radiates outward. I looked back up the slope. Something was descending. Not walking, not sliding. Descending. A distortion in the air. Reality bending around a presence too large for 3 dimensions. Moonlight focused through it in patches that slid downward. Mathematical, precise, patient. "Faster!" The scream tore my throat. "Get the fire lit!" When flames finally caught, I felt hope flicker. Fire is primal safety. Fire is human. Fire is the line between civilization and chaos. The flames burned. The shadows fell wrong, not away from the fire, toward it, stretching across snow like black tongues trying to lick away the light. And the shadows, I watched them. They had texture, 3-dimensional, solid, things made of darkness that cast darkness. That's when I noticed the fire made no sound. Wood burns, wood crackles, pops, hisses as sap boils and bark splits. But our fire burned in absolute silence. And the light it cast had that same greenish tinge, that color that doesn't belong in nature, That color that tells you something fundamental has been replaced. We weren't burning wood. We were burning something that looked like wood. Lyudmila started praying. Her lips moved rapid fire, forming words I remembered from childhood. Orthodox prayers my grandmother taught me, but the syllables came out backwards, reversed, like time itself was running the wrong direction, and we were experiencing our deaths in rewind. "Do you see them?" Rustem pointed up the slope. His hand trembled so hard I heard bones clicking. I saw lights, dozens, spheres of sickly green luminescence floating down toward us in formation. Perfect geometry, moving with purpose, with intelligence, arranging themselves into a pattern that I can't describe it. I looked. My eyes registered. My brain processed the visual information. But when I try to remember, there's nothing. Not blank space, active resistance. Like my mind is protecting itself. Because keeping that memory intact would mean opening a door that should stay locked. Forever. "They're counting us," Zina breathed. 1, 2, 3. Each sphere pulsed in sequence. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The sequence stopped. The lights hung in the air, waiting. Then they began descending faster, not falling, descending, controlled, deliberate, coming to collect. 11:23 p.m. When Doroshenko stopped being, he sat down by the fire, stared into flames. His chest stopped rising, just stopped. Not a gasp, not a rattle, one moment breathing, next moment not. His eyes stayed open, reflecting green light that pulsed in time with something we couldn't hear, but could feel vibrating in our bones. On his face, relief, pure, absolute, the expression of a man who'd been carrying an impossible burden his entire life, and someone had finally taken it from him. Like he'd found the answer, like the answer was beautiful. "Yuri!" Krivonishenko shook him, then harder. "Yuri!" The body stayed warm, still soft, but whatever made it Yuri, the spark, the soul, the emergent property of firing neurons that created personality, was gone. Extracted, removed with surgical precision, just meat left behind. Krivonishenko lost it. He started climbing, clawing at bark, leaving gouges in ancient wood that wept sap like blood. He made it 15 feet before he fell, got up, climbed again, fell harder. His palms left dark smears on snow. "We need to see!" he screamed. "We need to see what's coming!" On his third attempt, I heard it. Crack! Not a branch breaking. His neck. One moment climbing, next moment twisted at the tree's base, looking up at stars that weren't stars. Same empty eyes, same relief on his face. Like dying was the kindest thing that had ever happened to him. 2 dead, 8 of us left. No, 9. I keep forgetting to count myself. Why do I keep forgetting? Igor grabbed my arm. His grip was inhuman. Fingers like steel rods pressing into muscle. "We go back. To the tent. We need supplies. Proper clothes. We can't..." His voice cracked. "We'll freeze to death if we stay here." "Are you insane? That thing is between us and hypothermia." His eyes were too wide, whites showing all around. "We go. We grab what we can. We run for the settlement. 20 kilometers. We can make it. It's the only..." He didn't say chance. Couldn't. Because we all knew. Rustem and Zina nodded. 3 of them decided to climb back up. I should have gone with them. Sometimes, in the decades since, I wish I had. They made it 300 yards. Maybe less. Distance was wrong on that mountain. Space folded. Unfolded. Steps that should take seconds took minutes. Or maybe hours. Time was broken there. We found their bodies at dawn. Me and the others who stayed by the silent fire. Igor, Rustem, Zina, frozen on hands and knees, crawling like animals back toward a tent that glowed with light that had no earthly source. Their faces pressed into snow, their spines arched wrong, like something had reached inside and pulled them backward from within. The four of us who remained, we tried to survive, dug into the ravine, built a shelter from snow that felt too soft, too yielding, tried to wait until dawn. That's when it came for us. Not the lights, not the hum, the thing the lights were announcing. I woke up choking on snow, my mouth full, throat packed, lungs solid. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. Something was on top of me, but I couldn't see it. Not invisible, beyond visibility. Like it existed in more dimensions than my eyes could process. Weight without mass, pressure without source. The atmosphere itself had solidified, pressing down, down, down. Through darkness, I heard Lyudmila screaming, the sound cut off mid-breath, not stopped, removed, like someone had reached into reality and deleted the sound wave before it finished forming. Then I heard it. That voice that wasn't voice, speaking words that weren't words, language that bypassed my ears and wrote itself directly into my brain. Before, it had said, "You shouldn't be here." Now it said, "You were always meant to be here. You were called. You answered. You came. Now you belong to us. Now you are ours. Now you will carry us back." The pressure on my chest increased. My ribs creaked. I felt them bending inward, felt the architecture of my skeleton beginning to collapse. Something enormous and invisible pressing down, down, down. My sternum began to crack, and then, nothing. Silence. Complete, total. The kind of silence that exists in deep space, in the void between stars, where there's no air to carry sound, no molecules to vibrate. When I opened my eyes, I was lying in snow 4 meters from where I'd been. My clothes were different. I was wearing Lyudmila's wool sweater, brown, hand-knit. I recognized the pattern her grandmother had taught her. Georgie's military surplus pants, Kolya's leather jacket with the broken zipper he'd meant to fix. I don't remember putting them on. I don't remember anyone taking them off. I looked at my hands. They were mine. I recognized the scar on my thumb from a childhood accident. My wedding ring still there. But the sweater smelled like Lyudmila, her perfume, her sweat, her fear. I stood. My legs worked. My heart beat. I was alive. I was alive. I shouldn't have been alive. And the others? The others were in the ravine. 4 bodies arranged in a pattern I couldn't quite see from ground level. A geometry. A message. Their faces peaceful, relieved. Their clothes scattered around me, on me, inside me. I turned and ran. Ran until I hit the search party 3 days later. Ran until men with flashlights and questions found me stumbling through snow in borrowed clothes from the dead. They asked what happened. I told them, avalanche, panic, hypothermia, confusion. They wrote it down, 27 pages. Unknown compelling force. They never asked the right question. They never asked, why was I the only one who survived? They never asked, what was I wearing when they found me? They never asked, whose clothes were they? Because I'm still wearing them. Every night, I put on Lyudmila's sweater, Georgie's pants, Kolya's jacket, and every night at 9:34 p.m., I hear them breathing. Not me breathing. Them. Inside me. Wearing me. The way I'm wearing them. Recorder static for 4 seconds. Interview subject removes jacket. Underneath, a brown wool sweater, hand knit. Pattern consistent with 1950s Soviet craftsmanship. When asked where he got it, subject responds, "She gave it to me, before she stopped being her." Forensic analysis pending. The Night the Mountains Spoke, Part 3. February 2nd, 1959, 4:17 a.m. When understanding became a curse. Dawn was coming. I watched the eastern sky lighten to that pale, sickly gray that precedes sunrise in the Urals in February. But the light felt wrong, diluted, like reality had worn thin as tissue paper, and something vast was pressing against it from the other side, threatening to tear through. I stumbled toward the ravine where we'd tried to shelter. My feet were numb, Not cold, absent, like they'd been amputated and I was walking on phantom limbs. But I kept moving because stopping meant thinking, and thinking meant processing what had happened, and processing meant the final dissolution of whatever sanity I had left. I found them in the ravine, 4 meters down, under packed snow. How did I know where to dig? I can't answer that. My hands simply started clawing, pulling away layers, digging deeper, deeper, like I was following a map written in my bones, like something was guiding me. Lyudmila first. Her eyes were open, staring up through compacted snow with that expression, that relief, the same I'd seen on Doroshenko's face, like death had answered a question she'd been asking her entire life. But her mouth, God, her mouth, open wider than anatomy should allow, jaw dislocated, and inside, no tongue. Not ripped, not severed, dissolved. The wound edges were smooth, cauterized, like the tissue had been unmade at a molecular level, like something had reached into her mouth and simply deleted that part of her. The smell hit me then, copper, ozone, and underneath, something sweet and rotten, organic decay mixed with burned electronics, a smell that shouldn't exist in nature. I turned and vomited into snow. Nothing came up but bile the color of rust. "Keep digging," something whispered. Not in my ears, in my skull, behind my eyes. "You need to see. You need to witness. You need to understand what you've become." My hands kept moving, against my will, pulling away snow, revealing Kolya Thibault, Alexander Zolotaryov. Their ribs were shattered, not from external impact, from inside, like something had expanded within their chests, broken the bones outward. The force required would be equivalent to a car crash at 80 kilometers per hour, the forensic expert would later write in his report that he'd classify as unexplained traumatic injury pattern inconsistent with known environmental factors. Translation: this shouldn't be possible, but their skin was unmarked, not a scratch, not a contusion, not a single surface wound, just crushed rib cages and empty, grateful eyes. And their hands. I hadn't noticed at first, but their fingers were positioned, arranged, all pointing in the same direction, north-northwest, towards something, or away from something, or showing the way home. I was shaking so hard my teeth chattered. The sound echoed wrong in the still air. The sun crested the ridge, painting snow in shades of orange and red. Blood colors. War colors. I looked at my hands and realized they were covered in it. Half-frozen blood. Not mine. Staining the borrowed clothes I couldn't remember putting on. Lyudmila's sweater, Georgie's pants, Kolya's jacket. Whose clothes? The question formed like ice crystals in my mind. Whose blood? Whose? Then I saw it. The dosimeter. 4:45 a.m., when physics stopped making sense. Someone had brought a DP-5 dosimeter, military surplus. Why? I couldn't remember. Maybe someone heard rumors about weapons tests. Maybe just paranoia. Maybe something made sure we brought it. It was lying in snow next to Zolotaryov's body. The needle was buried in the red zone. Click, 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 click. Rapid fire counting. Not the slow, steady background radiation of the Earth. This was screaming. Beta particles. Levels 50, 60 times above normal. I picked it up. My hands were shaking. The clicking intensified as I moved it closer to the bodies. Click, 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 click. Over Lyudmila's sweater, the one I was wearing. Click, 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 click. The sound became a solid tone, a shriek of atomic disintegration. We'd been marked, tagged, changed on a level that went deeper than flesh, deeper than bone, down to the atomic structure of our cells, our DNA, the fundamental particles that made us, us. We'd been irradiated by something that wasn't a reactor, wasn't a weapon, wasn't anything humanity had invented or understood. I looked at the bodies, really looked. In the growing dawn light, I could see it. A faint phosphorescence, green, barely visible, glowing from within the tissues, from their bones, their organs. We'd been changed, and I was wearing their clothes, their radioactive clothes, against my skin, absorbing whatever they'd absorbed on that mountain, becoming what they'd become. I dropped the dosimeter, tried to tear off the sweater. My hands wouldn't obey. They felt foreign, like I was operating a body from a remote location, like the connection between thought and action had been severed and replaced with something that only looked like voluntary movement. "You can't take it off," the voice whispered. "It's part of you now. You're part of it. We made you fit. We made you right. We made you ready." I screamed. The sound came out wrong, too high-pitched, too long, like it had been processed through something that didn't understand human vocal anatomy. Then I ran. 6:30 a.m., when my body stopped being mine. I made it maybe a kilometer, maybe less. Distance had no meaning. I'd run for what felt like hours, but the sun had barely moved. Or maybe it had moved, and I'd just lost time. Lost minutes, lost hours, lost something essential. I collapsed face first into snow. Couldn't get up, couldn't move. My muscles had locked, not from cold, from command. Like someone else was operating my nervous system now, and they'd decided it was time to stop. That's when I felt it. A presence settling over me. Not weight, not heat, just presence. Vast, patient, ancient beyond measure, almost gentle, the way you'd pet a frightened animal, the way you'd calm something that had forgotten it was yours. "Rest," the non-voice whispered. "You ran so hard, you fought so beautifully, but you can stop now. You're home. You've always been home. You just forgot." Home. The word resonated in my chest cavity, in my bones, in spaces between thoughts. This wasn't home. Home was Moscow, my mother's apartment, the smell of borscht, the sound of streetcars, the ordinary, mundane, real world I'd taken for granted. This frozen wasteland couldn't be, but it felt like home. That was the horror, lying in snow, radiation cooking my cells, friends dead in impossible ways behind me, mind fracturing under the weight of understanding I wasn't meant to have. It felt like coming home after a long exile, like I'd always belonged here, like I'd been called back to my origin point. The Mansi guides had tried to warn us. "The mountain takes those who violate sacred ground," they'd said. "The sky people come down. They take violators back to where they came from." We'd laughed. Superstition, primitive fear. But what if it wasn't punishment? What if it was retrieval? I thought about the lights, perfect geometric formation, counting us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Not attacking, verifying, making sure all 10 had arrived. But we were only supposed to be 9 in the group. I was the 10th, last-minute addition, replacement for someone who'd gotten mysteriously sick the night before departure. Or had they gotten sick? Or had something made them sick so I could take their place? So the count would be correct. So the ritual would be complete. I started laughing. It came out as wheeze, then sob, then scream. I screamed into snow until my throat was raw, until the sound became just air, just silence. And then, footsteps, crunching through snow, slow, deliberate, each step perfectly measured. Someone was walking toward me. 7:15 a.m., when I met myself. I managed to turn my head. The effort nearly caused blackout. Gray spots bloomed in my vision. A figure stood 10 meters away, human-shaped, wearing winter gear, Soviet military surplus jacket, Ushanka hat, wool pants, moving slowly, each step placed with mechanical precision. "Help!" I croaked. The word tasted like copper. "Please! Help!" The figure stopped, tilted its head. The motion was too smooth, too fluid, like a puppet on invisible strings, like something that had studied human movement but never quite mastered the subtle imperfections that make it real. Then it spoke, with my voice. "I will help you," it said, using my vocal cords, my accent, my speech patterns, my slight lisp on sibilance. I'll take you home, back to Moscow, back to your mother's cooking, back to the life you remember living." It took a step closer. The snow beneath its feet didn't compress, didn't leave proper tracks, just shallow indentations. Too shallow. Wrong weight distribution. All you have to do is close your eyes, let go, stop fighting what you are. You're so tired. You've been tired for such a long time, since before you were born, since before you were called into existence wearing human skin. Another step. I could see details now. My brown jacket, my wool scarf, my gloves with the torn index finger, my face, exact in every detail. The small scar on my left eyebrow from falling off a bicycle at 7, the slightly crooked nose from a schoolyard fight, the way my hair fell across my forehead when it got too long, even the patch of stubble I'd missed shaving 3 days ago. Perfect. Too perfect. "Come home," it said with my smile, but the smile didn't reach the eyes. The eyes were empty, not evil, not cruel, just vacant. Like windows into a room with no one inside. "Stop wearing that body. It doesn't fit you correctly. It never did. You've always known. The dreams of falling upward, the nightmares of vast geometries, the memories from before you were born." It extended a hand, my hand, down to the callus on my palm from holding pencils wrong, the crooked pinky finger I'd broken as a child. "Come back to what you really are," it whispered. "Come back to us, to where you came from, to what birthed you. This body is just a costume. Take it off. Be comfortable. Be real." I stared at that hand, and I wanted to take it. God help me. God forgive me. I wanted to, because it was right. I'd never fit in my own skin. Always felt displaced, slightly wrong, like I was operating a vehicle I'd never learned to drive. Dreams of stars that shouldn't exist. Memories that couldn't be mine because they happened in colors I'd never seen, on worlds I'd never visited. Or had I? Had this version of me visited them? Or was this version the copy? The hand came closer. I could feel cold radiating from it. Not winter cold, absolute zero. The cold of deep space, the cold between galaxies. My fingers reached out. 8 a.m., when humanity intruded. "There! Over there!" Voices, human voices, rough with cold and shouting. The sound of skis cutting powder, dogs barking, a rescue party. Too soon. They'd come too soon. The thing wearing my face looked up. Its expression shifted into something I couldn't parse. Frustration? Anger? Fear? "Too soon," it whispered, and this time I heard something underneath my voice. Something vast, ancient, speaking through vocal cords like a whale trying to communicate through a tin can. "They came too soon. You called them somehow. Part of you still wants to remain. Part of you hasn't remembered yet." It leaned down close. I could feel its breath on my face. Not warm, not cold. Just absence. Negative space. The void between stars given form and temperature. "This isn't over," it said, and I felt each word press against my skull like fingers. "You survived. That means you're marked, tagged, claimed. You belong to us now, whether you accept it or not. The radiation is in your bones. Our signal is in your cells. We'll come for you again." Closer, its lips nearly touching my ear. "Maybe not today, maybe not this decade, but we'll come. And next time." A smile, my smile, but wrong, inverted, a photographic negative of joy. "Next time, there won't be a rescue party." Then it was gone. Not walked away, not vanished, simply wasn't. One moment occupying space, next moment, empty air. No footprints leading away, no trail, no evidence it had ever existed except the cold void it left behind where warmth should be. Just me, lying in snow, hypothermic, delirious, babbling about lights and voices and things that wear stolen faces. 8:15 a.m., when I stopped being a reliable witness. The rescue team found me raving in tongues, Languages I didn't know, couldn't know. Languages that hadn't been spoken on Earth for millennia, if ever. They wrapped me in emergency blankets, gave me hot tea that tasted like nothing. Like my tongue had forgotten how to process ordinary sensation. Asked questions I couldn't answer coherently. Where were the others? What happened? Why was I wearing their clothes? Why was I alone? Why was I alive? I told them everything, all of it. The lights, the hum, the thing at the tent, the deaths, the double, the radiation, everything. They nodded sympathetically, made notes, exchanged glances that said, trauma, psychosis, unreliable. Their final report would read, sole survivor, severe hypothermia, trauma-induced delusions, testimony inconsistent with physical evidence, witness deemed unreliable due to extreme psychological distress and possible organic brain injury from prolonged cold exposure. Translation: he's crazy. Disregard everything he says. They were wrong about one thing, though. I wasn't the sole survivor. I'm not sure I survived at all. Because every night since then, I put on Lyudmila's sweater, Gorgie's pants, Kolya's jacket, and every night at 9:34 p.m., the hum starts, rising through whatever building I'm in, through concrete, through steel, through the atomic bonds that hold matter together, counting 1, 2, 3, getting closer to 10, and when it reaches 10, when the count is complete, I think I'll remember what I really am, what I've always been, what's been wearing me as the costume. Recording ends abruptly. Interview subject stands, removes jacket. Underneath, brown wool sweater, hand knit. Pattern consistent with late 1950s Soviet craftsmanship. Subject walks to window, stares at sky, begins counting in a language the interviewer doesn't recognize. When asked what he's doing, subject responds without turning, answering roll call. Dosimeter reading at interview location, 3.7 times normal background radiation. Source, unknown. The Night the Mountains Spoke, Part 4. March 15, 1959. Sverdlovsk Regional Hospital, where the dying learn they're already dead. 6 weeks, white walls the color of bone, disinfectant that couldn't quite mask the smell underneath, something sweet and chemical. Decay mixed with formaldehyde. Nurses spoke in whispers, wouldn't meet my eyes. When they had to touch me, taking temperature, checking pulse, I could feel them flinch, just slightly. A micro recoil, like touching something that looked human but registered wrong on an instinctive level. Doctors asked the same questions, loop after loop, recording my answers in files stamped with red ink, classifications I couldn't read. Tell us what you remember. The lights, the hum, something at the tent. We ran. Before the delusions, what actually happened? But I wasn't delusional. I know the difference between reality and hallucination, between trauma and truth. I've explained this 100 times, 1,000, but they just nod, make notes, increase sedatives that don't make me sleep. They make me float in a gray space between consciousness and something else. The worst part wasn't the questions. It was the tests. The blood. Every morning at 6 a.m., same nurse, young, maybe 23, hands that shook when she inserted the needle. She'd watch the vial fill, dark red, too dark, viscous, moving wrong, and her face would go pale, colorless, like she'd seen something that violated her understanding of biology. Once, day 9, I think, time had started blurring. I heard her in the hallway, whispering to another nurse. It glows. Pause. In the dark. When I take it to the lab, in the dark it actually glows. Green. Like foxfire. Like bioluminescence. But it's blood. Human blood doesn't... Quiet. They're listening. Who was listening? I never found out, but I felt it. Eyes, cameras, something observing from spaces between the walls. Night 12. They brought new equipment. A neurologist. Dr. Petrov, 50s, gray at the temples. the kind of exhausted that comes from seeing too much and understanding too little. "Standard procedure," he said, attaching electrodes to my scalp. Cold metal. Conducting gel that smelled like copper. "Map your brain activity. Check for damage from hypothermia. Frostbite to neural tissue. Nothing invasive." He was lying. I could hear it in his voice, the slight tremor on nothing. He turned on the machine. The EEG went insane. The needle on the graph paper slammed right, pegged, then jumped back, oscillating wildly, drawing patterns that shouldn't exist, geometric, fractal, repeating at different scales. Petrov's face went white. Not pale, white, the color of shock, of understanding something impossible. This can't." His hands shook. "Your theta waves are synchronized with an external frequency, but there's no external source, nothing in this room, nothing broadcasting. It's like your brain is tuned to something that—" He ripped the electrodes off my head. 3 of them tore skin. I felt blood trickle down my temple. Warm. Too warm. He ran from the room. I heard retching in the hallway, liquid hitting tile, the smell of vomit mixed with that sweet chemical smell. He never came back, but others did. The gray men. They came at night, after visiting hours, after the nurses had gone home, after the hospital settled into that 3 a.m. stillness where even the fluorescent lights seemed to hum quieter. Men in gray suits. No names, no identification. They sat across from me in the consultation room with folders that stayed closed. Asked questions that weren't really questions. "Did you observe aircraft? Unusual aerial phenomena before the incident?" The lights came down. From above, "Did any member of your group have contact with foreign nationals? Access to restricted materials? Proximity to military installations?" "What? No! We were students, just—" "The radiation detected on the clothing. Explain it." "I can't. I've told you everything. Why won't anyone believe me?" The man closed his folder. The sound echoed, final, absolute. "We believe you experienced trauma. We believe you're suffering from survivor's guilt, hypothermia-induced psychosis, possible exposure to radioactive materials from unknown source." He stood. "What we don't believe is your interpretation of events." He walked to the door, stopped, turned. "You're being discharged tomorrow. You'll sign documentation agreeing not to discuss this incident publicly. You'll return to Moscow, resume your studies, forget this happened." "I can't forget." "You will." His voice went quiet, gentle, the gentleness of someone explaining reality to a child. "Or you'll wish you had. Do you understand?" I understood. I understood I was a loose end, a witness, a problem. I understood they were deciding whether it was safer to let me live or make me disappear. March 16th, 1959. The discharge that wasn't. They gave me new clothes, gray pants, white shirt, brown jacket, government issue. My old clothes had been confiscated. Contaminated, they said, destroyed per protocol. The borrowed clothes, Lyudmila's sweater, Georgie's pants, Kolya's jacket, those had vanished completely. "Lost in transit," the orderly said. Wouldn't look at me when he said it. I signed papers, non-disclosure agreements, national security provisions. My hand shook so badly my signature looked like someone else's handwriting. Maybe it was. A car waited outside. Not a taxi, not a bus. A black Zill with curtained windows and no plates. The driver didn't speak, didn't look at me, just drove. North, away from the train station, away from the city, into forest that got thicker and darker until the road turned to dirt, then gravel, then barely a path. "Where are we going? This isn't—" He didn't answer. 3 hours, maybe 4. The sun moved, but time felt elastic, compressed. We stopped at a checkpoint I'd never seen on any map. Soviet military, guards with AK-47s, razor wire, watchtowers. Beyond the gate, concrete bunkers built into a hillside, a facility that officially didn't exist. They took me underground, downstairs, level after level. The air got colder. That same cold from the mountain, not temperature, absence. Like heat was being actively removed, consumed. At the bottom, reinforced steel door, wheel lock, submarine style. The guards spun it open with effort, metal groaning. Inside, a room, and on metal tables under harsh fluorescent lights that buzzed with that wrong frequency. My friends, but changed. The autopsy room, where the dead refused to stay dead. Come closer. I turned. A woman in a white coat, 50, maybe older. Tired eyes that had seen things she couldn't unsee. Hands that trembled constantly. Not from age, from knowledge. Dr. Vozrozhdeniya, she introduced herself. Chief pathologist, forensic specialist. I'm the one who examined them. She paused. I'm the one who's been trying to understand what they're becoming. Why am I here? Because you deserve truth, and because... Her voice cracked. Because I need someone else to witness this, to confirm I'm not insane, that this is real. She walked to the first table, pulled back the sheet. Lyudmila, but wrong. Her face had changed, not decomposition, transformation. The skin had a waxy quality, smooth, too smooth, like plastic, like something synthetic trying to imitate organic tissue. And her eyes, open, staring at the ceiling. They won't stay closed, Dr. Vozrozhdeniya whispered. We've tried everything, sutures, glue, weights, coins on the eyelids like the old traditions. They open again within hours, always staring up, always focused on the exact same point in space. She touched Lyudmila's face. The skin didn't move, didn't compress, just stayed rigid. The tissue is changing, at the molecular level, becoming something crystalline, inorganic, but it's still growing, still alive, in some way we don't understand. Next table, Kolya Thibault. The ribs, look at the fracture patterns. I forced myself to look. The bones weren't broken, they were bent, curved outward in impossible arcs, like they'd been shaped, molded, by pressure from within that defied physics. Force required, approximately 450 kilograms per square centimeter, she said. Clinical, detached, the only way to handle horror. Applied evenly across the entire thoracic cavity, from inside. There's no mechanism in nature, no weapon, no accident scenario that produces this pattern. She pulled the sheet higher. I wished she hadn't. Inside his chest, arrangement. The organs were still there, heart, lungs, liver, but reorganized, positioned in geometric patterns, perfect symmetry, like someone had been building a diagram, a schematic, a message. I took tissue samples, she breathed, sent them to Moscow, Institute of Biophysics, top specialists. Her hands shook worse. The DNA is still human, still his, but modified. Pieces inserted that don't match any known genetic sequence on Earth. Not bacterial, not viral, not fungal. Nothing we've ever seen. What does that mean? It means something was rewriting them, changing their fundamental biology, reprogramming them into something else. She covered Kolya with a trembling hand. And the process wasn't complete when they died. It's continuing, even now. Last table, Alexander Zolotaryov. This one, she stopped, swallowed. This one is the worst. She pulled back the sheet. His chest was open, autopsy complete, ribs spread, organs visible. And nestled between his ribs, where no organ should be, a mass, crystalline, geometric, the size of a human fist, made of material that looked like ice but wasn't. It pulsed, actually pulsed, with bioluminescence, green, that same sickly green from the mountain, patterns of light moving across its surface, mathematical, fractal, beautiful, and horrifying. It's growing, Dr. Vozrozhdeniya whispered. Even though he's dead, even refrigerated at 4 degrees Celsius, it's growing, adding structure, complexity. We don't know what it is. We can't analyze it. Saw blades break against it. Diamond bits shatter, lasers reflect at impossible angles. She looked at me with desperate, hollow eyes. It's like it's not entirely in our dimension, like it exists partially in space we can't perceive, and... She stopped, stared at me. You survived. You were there. You came back. Tell me. Her voice dropped to almost nothing. Is there one of these inside you too? The X-ray, where hope dies. They took me to another room, an X-ray machine, Soviet era, massive, the kind that probably gave you cancer from radiation exposure, the kind they'd stopped using in civilized countries decades ago. But this wasn't about my health. This was about what I was. Lie down. I didn't want to. God, I didn't want to know, but I had to. The machine whirred, clicked, hummed with that frequency that made my teeth ache. Film developed in chemical baths that smelled like ammonia and something else, something organic. Dr. Vozrozhdeniya held the film up to the light box. Her hands shook so badly the image blurred. There, in my chest, left of center, just beside my heart, a shadow, small, maybe the size of a walnut, geometric, faceted, irregular edges that didn't quite seem to follow three-dimensional geometry, not quite solid, not quite not there, existing in a state between, growing. I could see it, tendrils extending, reaching toward my heart, my lungs, my spine. How long? My voice came from far away, from someone else's throat. Based on comparison with the others, she couldn't finish, took a breath, tried again. 6 months, maybe 8, maybe a year. Then the transformation completes. Then you become... What? What do I become? She didn't answer. Couldn't, because there was no word in any human language for what I was becoming. I'd been marked, tagged, seeded. The thing on the mountain hadn't killed me because I was already its territory, its property, its offspring. The transformation had started, was continuing, would continue, cell by cell, molecule by molecule, atom by atom. I was dying, or worse, I was becoming. There's more, she said quietly. Something you need to see. Come with me. The archive, where the past teaches the future how to fear. Another room, deeper still. How far down did this facility go? How many secrets were buried in these concrete walls, files, floor to ceiling, decades of documentation, dust, the smell of old paper and ink and something else, something that reminded me of the mountain. After I saw the bodies, Dr. Vozrozhdeniya said, pulling folders with shaking hands. After I saw what was inside them, I couldn't sleep, so I searched. I have clearance, access to archives most people don't know exist. She spread files across a metal table. Kholat Syakhl. The Mansi call it Dead Mountain, but that name is recent, changed in 1927. Before that, for centuries, they called it something else. She pointed to handwritten notes in Old Russian. The mountain where they return. She opened another file. Photographs, black and white, grainy, but clear enough. 1927, geological expedition. 7 scientists sent to survey mineral deposits. All found dead. Radiation detected. Unexplained injuries. Equipment carved with geometric patterns. Authorities blamed indigenous attack. Case closed. Another file. 1936, Soviet surveying team. 9 people. Map-making. 3 bodies recovered. 6 vanished. Search lasted 3 months. Nothing found. Another. My stomach turned. 1943, German prisoners of war. 12 sent to map the region. 2 came back, both catatonic. When they finally spoke, they talked about lights, voices, things that counted them. Authorities executed them as unreliable. Case closed. File after file, incident after incident, 1889, 1903, 1915, 1927, 1936, 1943, 1952. Going back over a century, maybe more, records got sparse, handwritten, fragmentary, but the pattern was clear. Every incident happens in groups of 9 or 10, always winter, always February. And look, she pulled out a calendar marked with dates, red ink, precise. Always on nights with unusual solar activity, geomagnetic storms, aurora borealis appearing at latitudes where it shouldn't, electromagnetic anomalies that mess with compasses, radios, equipment. She looked at me. Her eyes were hollow, empty, the look of someone who'd stared into an abyss and the abyss had politely waved back. Something comes down, from the sky, from space, from somewhere. It's been coming for at least 100 years, maybe longer, maybe always. And it takes people, changes them, returns them. Returns them where? We came from Moscow, from… No. Barely a whisper. Where they really came from. Before they were born. Before they were human. Before they were… this. She closed the files. The KGB sealed all of this. Classified until 2079. 120 years. Specific date, not rounded. Why 2079? What happens then that makes this information safe? I knew. Felt it in my bones, in my cells, in that crystalline mass growing near my heart. Because by then, I said slowly, everyone who was human will be gone, changed, transformed, returned, and only the new things will be left, the things that used to be us. She nodded, covered her face, started to cry, quiet, hopeless. You should leave, go to Moscow, live whatever life you have left. Don't come back. Don't go near mountains. Don't look at Aurora. Don't. The lights went out. All of them. Simultaneously. Emergency lighting should have kicked in. Didn't. Complete darkness. And in that darkness, the hum, rising from beneath, from deeper levels I hadn't known existed, from chambers that went down and down and down. No, Dr. Vozrozhdeniya breathed. No, they're here. They know you came back. They know you saw. Her voice cut off, not stopped, removed. I heard something wet, heavy, hit the floor, not a body falling, something else, something coming apart. I couldn't move, frozen, not from fear, from command. Something in my cells responding to a signal I couldn't hear but could feel. 3 seconds of absolute darkness, then lights flickered back. Dim, strobing, wrong color, that greenish tinge. I was alone. Dr. Vozrozhdeniya was gone. No body, no trace, just her white coat on the floor, still warm, still shaped like she'd been wearing it 1 second ago. And on the wall, written in something that glowed, phosphorescent, green, still dripping. Protocol engaged, specimen located, retrieval in progress, return inevitable. The letters pulsed in time with my heartbeat. I ran, upstairs, through corridors, past guards who didn't move, didn't breathe, just stood frozen mid-step like someone had pressed pause on reality. I burst through the surface door into February night and stopped. Because overhead, the aurora, green, writhing, dancing, but forming shapes, patterns, counting down, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, coming for me, coming to take me home. Recording recovered from abandoned facility near Sverdlovsk, 2079. Subject's final known location before disappearance. Analysis of blood samples from walls confirms Subject 10, Dyatlov expedition. Transformation process, 97% complete at time of recording. Current whereabouts, unknown. Status, active. Threat level, undefined. Note, geomagnetic activity in region increasing annually. Recommend full evacuation by 2080. The Night the Mountains Spoke, Part 5, Final. April 3rd, 1959, Moscow. My mother's apartment, where I learned I'd already died. I made it back, somehow. The details blur. A train, maybe 2. Days bleeding together like watercolors in rain. Faces on platforms turning away. A woman who changed cars when I sat beside her. Her whisper before she left, "You smell wrong." Not bad, not unpleasant, wrong. My mother opened the door, screamed, not joy, not relief that her son had survived when 9 others hadn't. Terror, pure, primal. The scream of prey recognizing predator wearing a loved one's skin. She backed away, hand over her mouth, shaking her head, eyes wide, pupils contracted to pinpoints. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no, no." "Mama, it's me. I'm home. I survived." "My son died on that mountain." Her voice broke, tears streaming. But she wasn't crying from grief, from loss, from recognition. "You look like him. You move like him. You have his voice, his scar, his crooked tooth. But you're not him. You're not him. Whatever they sent back, whatever is wearing his face like a mask, get out. Get out of my house." She slammed the door. I stood in the hallway. 20 minutes, maybe 30. Time felt elastic, compressed. I could hear her through the door, sobbing, praying. Orthodox prayers I remembered from childhood. Prayers for the dead. Prayers for protection from unclean things. Prayers for her son's soul. I wanted to knock, to explain, to make her understand I was still me, still her son. But was I? I looked at my hands. They looked like my hands. Same calluses, same scar on the thumb, same crooked pinky. But they felt like gloves, like I was operating them from a distance, like the connection between thought and action had been rerouted through something that only approximated human neural patterns. I went to my apartment, the one I'd rented before the expedition. My key fit. Everything exactly as I'd left it. Books on shelves, dirty dishes in the sink from the morning we'd departed, bed unmade, the imprint of my body still visible in the sheets. I collapsed onto it, slept 16 hours. The dreams taught me what I was becoming. The dreams, where memory becomes prophecy. I stood on the slope. Summer, green grass where snow should be, wildflowers, impossible. The tent glowed, that green light seeping through canvas. My feet moved without permission, pulled, drawn, like iron to lodestone. Inside, all 9 of them, sitting in a circle, eyes open, mouths open, that expression, that relief. "You're late," Lyudmila said. Her tongue was gone, but words formed anyway, vibrating in the air, in my skull, bypassing language entirely. "We've been waiting," Doroshenko breathed. His chest wasn't moving, no respiration, but voice came anyway. "The transformation is almost complete," Igor smiled. His teeth were too white, too perfect, too many. 34 teeth. Humans have 32. "Soon you'll remember," they said in unison. 9 voices, perfect synchronization, perfect harmony. Who you really are, what you really are, where you really came from before the forgetting. The tent walls became transparent. Beyond, not sky, space. Deep void studded with stars that formed geometries that hurt to perceive. Angles that added up wrong. Patterns that my eyes could see but my brain couldn't store without fragmenting. And descending from that void, shapes. Vast, incomprehensible. Things that made my eyes bleed just from looking at their edges, at the places where they intersected with 3-dimensional reality. "We were always theirs," the 9 said. "Seeds, planted in human flesh, waiting to germinate, waiting to grow, waiting to ripen, waiting to be called home." One shape descended closer. I could almost see it, almost understand its form. It looked like something I recognized. I woke screaming, tasted copper. My pillow was soaked, red. I'd been bleeding from my nose, my ears, my eyes. The sheets glowed faintly green in the darkness. May 1959, when my body stopped obeying physics. Small things first, easy to ignore. My reflection. Sometimes it moved half a second too slow, or too fast. Desynced, like a badly dubbed film. Food tasted like metal and ozone and something else, something I had no words for. I stopped eating, lost 20 kilograms in 3 weeks. Didn't matter. I didn't feel hungry. Didn't feel anything except that pressure in my chest. Growing. Sleep became impossible. I'd lie awake for 72 hours, 96. No exhaustion, no fatigue, just awareness. Heightened, expanded, bleeding beyond the boundaries of my skull. I could hear things. Frequencies below 20 hertz, above 20,000 hertz. The electrical hum of wiring in walls. Radio broadcasts from Leningrad. Heartbeats in neighboring apartments. The grinding rotation of Earth's core. And underneath it all, that pulse. That rhythm. The heartbeat of something vast and patient and waiting. Counting down. The mass in my chest was growing. I felt it every moment. Pressure, presence, consciousness. Sometimes I'd wake, become aware, and feel it shifting, rearranging my organs like furniture, making room, optimizing the vessel for what came next. I visited doctors, 3, fake names, cash payment. They all said the same. X-rays are clear, you're healthy, perhaps stress, trauma, survivor's guilt. I recommend psychiatric evaluation. But I could see the X-rays, could see the shadow, growing, spreading tendrils through my cardiovascular system like roots through soil. They couldn't see it. Or they could, and their minds refused. Deleted the information, rejected what it meant. Self-protection, sanity preservation. I wished I had that luxury. June 1959, when the dead came to visit. They arrived at 3:47 a.m. every night, always that exact time. Temperature would plummet, frost forming on windows. In June, in Moscow, summer heat. Lights would flicker, pulse, in rhythm with that frequency, that heartbeat. I'd see them in reflections, window glass, mirror, polished metal, 9 figures standing behind me, my dead friends, watching, waiting. It's almost time, they'd whisper. 9 voices, 1 sound, perfect unison. I'd turn, nothing there, empty room. Look back at reflection, still there, still watching, still real in that inverted space where light moves backwards. One night, Lyudmila's reflection leaned close. Her breath fogged glass from the wrong side, from inside the mirror. "The others are waiting," she said. "The 1927 expedition, the 1936 team, the 1943 prisoners, all the harvests, all the seeds. We're all waiting in the mountain, in the place between dimensions, where transformation completes, where we remember what we were before the meet." I want to stay human. "You were never human," Igor's reflection interrupted, cold, final. "None of us were. We just forgot. Wore the costume so long we believed it was skin. But the mountain remembers. The mountain always remembers what we really are beneath the flesh." They faded with approaching dawn. Always did. Like they couldn't exist in daylight. But frost remained on windows, and written in it backwards so I could read in reflection, "Come home." 2 words that felt like hooks in my chest, pulling, tugging, calling. August 1959. The photographs that shouldn't exist. Package arrived. No return address. Brown paper. String. Postmark. Sverdlovsk. Inside, photographs. Official investigation photos. Ones that were never released. Ones that shouldn't exist outside KGB archives. Our tent. Aerial view. Day after incident. Around it in perfect circle 50 meters diameter. Snow wasn't snow anymore. Melted. No, transformed. Turned to glass. Smooth. Reflecting sky like mirror. And in that reflection, if you looked close, shapes. Geometric. Hovering above tent. Things that shouldn't be visible in reflection because they weren't there when photo was taken. Except they were there. Always there. We just couldn't see them with human eyes tuned to human frequencies. Another photograph. Cedar tree. Fire. Around it in snow, footprints. Dozens. Not human. Wrong number of toes. wrong spacing, wrong geometry, leading from tent to tree in perfect parallel lines. We'd been herded, guided, like livestock to slaughter, like crops to harvest. Another photograph. Ravine, 4 bodies. No, 5. I counted again. Blinked, counted again. 5. The 5th face down, partially buried, wearing my jacket, my pants, my boots. That's impossible. I'm alive. I'm here. I'm wearing... I looked down. Different clothes. When had I changed? I don't remember changing. Turned photo over. Handwriting I didn't recognize. Subject 10 died with the others. What returned to Moscow is not him. Error in retrieval protocol. Incomplete transformation. Subject will return to Kholat Syakhl before process completes. Inevitability factor, 100%. Date projected, February 2nd, 1960. 1 year after incident, 6 months from now. My hands shook. The paper fluttered, fell. I looked at my hands again. When had they started glowing? October 1959, the surrender. I stopped fighting. What was the point? The mass in my chest was size of grapefruit. I could barely breathe. My heart beat around it, struggling, adapting. My ribs were bending, curving outward. Soon they'd break like the others. Sometimes I'd look down and see light seeping through skin. Green bioluminescence, the same light from tent. I was becoming the thing I'd run from. Or I was shedding disguise, revealing what had always been underneath. I researched, archives, libraries, everything on the region, the mountain. Mansi oral histories went back centuries, legends of sky people descending during winter aurora, taking those who wandered sacred places. But the old stories didn't describe abduction. They described calling back. They come for lost children, one account read, ones who fell to earth and forgot their names. Every generation when lights dance in winter sky, they return to collect those who carry their seed. Not punishment, retrieval. Taking back what was always theirs. Seed. That's what the crystalline mass was. Not parasite, not weapon. Seed. Planted before I was born, before my mother conceived me, before the sperm met egg, woven into my DNA, waiting, dormant, until the signal came, until I walked onto Dead Mountain and stood where boundaries were thin and signals could penetrate and dormancy ended and growth began. Harvest time. I was crop. We all were. December 31st, 1959. The choice that wasn't a choice. Midnight. New Year's Eve. Fireworks in distance. People celebrating, dancing, kissing, believing in futures that would never come. 3 men in gray suits. No identification, no warrant, no explanation needed. Come with us. Where? You know where. Same facility, same entrance, but deeper. Past autopsy rooms, past archives, downstairs spiraling into geological time, down, down, down. At bottom, chamber, massive, carved from living rock. No, not carved, formed, grown. The walls were too smooth, organic, like inside of giant throat. In center, suspended by nothing visible. Sphere, 3 meters diameter, made of that crystalline material, pulsing, breathing, thinking. And inside, shapes, human-shaped, dozens, hundreds, all the missing expeditions, all lost teams, all transformed, suspended, not quite solid, not quite not, existing in state between human and other, between flesh and mathematics, between alive and something else, growing. 30 years we've studied it, Gray Man said, voice tired, defeated, since we found this chamber in 1929 after that expedition. We think it's incubator, chrysalis. Transformation happens here. Human dissolves, other thing emerges, returns home, leaves this behind. He gestured at shapes, at faces I almost recognized. You have 2 choices, surgery, We try to cut it out. 70% mortality, 90% chance incomplete removal, 100% chance it regrows, faster, angrier. Or, volunteer, go back to mountain, complete transformation under observation. Let us document, study, learn, maybe find way to stop next planting, next harvest. And if I refuse? Then in 2 months you'll feel call, that pull, that need. You'll walk to mountain, barefoot in snow if necessary, and you'll transform alone, unobserved, and will learn nothing. And this will happen again, and again, forever. I stared at the sphere, at shapes, at faces. Dr. Vozrozhdenaya's face, suspended, eyes open, mouth open, screaming silently in state between. For how long? Weeks? Months? Years? Decades? Forever? I thought about my mother who knew I wasn't her son, who was right. I thought about the thing in my chest, pulsing, growing, dreaming. I'll go, I said. February 2nd, back to Kholat Syakhl. You can observe, document, whatever you need. Why? Because I need to see what I'm becoming, what we all become, and maybe, I paused, maybe I can warn the next ones, the next seeds, the next harvest. Maybe I can leave message, so they know, so they can choose. The gray man nodded slowly. February 2nd, he confirmed. 1 year exactly. We'll take you to mountain. He handed me a folder. Read this tonight. It's everything we know, everything we've learned, everything we've hidden. I took it. On cover in red ink, Project Dyatlov. Classification, cosmic. Eyes only. Destroy after reading. I didn't destroy it. You're reading it now. February 1st, 1960, the night before the end. Hotel room in Evdel. Same hotel? Maybe same room. I can't remember. Tomorrow they take me to mountain, back to tent site, back to slope where it began, where it ended, where it ends again. The mass is size of cantaloupe. I can't breathe properly. Heart beats arrhythmic around it. Ribs creak. Any moment they'll snap like Kolya's, like Alexander's. I can see through walls now. Not vision, perception. People in next room, their heartbeats, their electromagnetic fields, their thoughts as patterns in air. I'm tuned to frequencies that shouldn't exist in three-dimensional space. Sometimes I forget what I am. Human writing? Or thing inside human learning to use fingers? Brain, language. Dreams have stopped. I don't sleep. I wait. 3:47 a.m. They arrive, all 9, standing in room. I don't turn, don't need to. I feel them like presence, like gravity. Tomorrow, they say. Tomorrow you come home. What happens after? My voice sounds wrong. Too many harmonics. After transformation? What do we become? Silence. Then Lyudmila. You already know. You've always known. You just need to remember. And she's right. Somewhere in crystalline mass, in patterns of growth, in frequency of pulse, memories. Not mine, older, vaster, of places that aren't Earth, of geometries beyond 3 dimensions, of home we were sent from, seeds scattered across worlds, waiting in flesh, growing, preparing. For what? I'll know tomorrow. February 2nd, 1960, 3:47 p.m. Kholat Syakhl, where I learned the truth. They brought me to slope. Military escort, scientists, cameras, recording equipment humming at wrong frequencies, tent long gone, but spot remained, sacred, cursed. Snow wouldn't settle right, always disturbed, always wrong. I stood where I'd slept 1 year ago. Hum started immediately, rising from mountain, from beneath, from above, from spaces between spaces. Equipment went haywire, needles slammed right, speakers shrieked, cameras captured overlapping realities bleeding through dimensional barriers. I felt it in chest, the mass, pulsing faster, heating, responding to signal, To call. Sky darkened, not clouds, not eclipse, reality itself dimming, thinning, wearing transparent. They came. Lights descending in perfect formation, counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Complete. I looked at soldiers, frozen, not moving, not breathing. Time around them had stopped, or they'd been isolated from timeline, removed, so they couldn't interfere. Only I could move, only I could choose. But was it choice or inevitability? Lights descended. I could see them clearly now. Not spacecraft, not machines. Doorways, openings into somewhere else. Someplace where physics worked differently, where geometry had more degrees of freedom. Through them, hands reaching. Too many fingers, wrong angles, made of light and mathematics and pure thought. One touched my chest. The mass detonated, not physically, dimensionally, expanding outward and inward simultaneously, rewriting space it occupied, transforming flesh into something else, something that could exist in more than 3 dimensions. I screamed. Sound came out wrong. Too many harmonics, frequencies that shattered equipment, shattered reality. Being pulled apart, put back together. Every cell, every atom, reorganized, optimized, corrected. And in that moment of transformation between human and other, I understood. The truth that breaks minds. We weren't humans transformed into aliens. We were aliens who'd been transformed into humans. Long ago, before memory, seeds sent to Earth, to grow in human bodies, to experience limitation, mortality, fear, love, pain, joy, to forget what we were, until call came, until we ripened, until harvest. The 9 had completed transformation, had shed flesh, had returned home, were waiting on the other side. I was last, the error, the one who survived too long in human form, who clung to humanity, who fought. But fighting was futile. This was always what I was, human part, memories, mother, life I thought was mine. Just dream, beautiful, temporary, time to wake. The hands pulled. I felt myself stretch. Not physically, dimensionally. Parts of me existing in spaces I couldn't perceive but could feel. My body wasn't dissolving, it was unfolding. Like origami in reverse, like flower bloom captured in time-lapse, revealing true shape hidden in flesh. I looked down, saw my hands, still human, but also not, overlapping with other hands, crystalline, geometric, real. The human hands were shadow, echo. These were always my true hands. I looked up, through portal, saw them, all 9, all transformed, waiting, smiling with mouths that had too many expressions, too many dimensions of emotion. Behind them, others, dozens, hundreds, thousands, all the harvests going back centuries, millennia, all the seeds that had ripened and returned, all the lost children coming home. And behind them, the city. Vast, impossible, built from mathematics and light and pure thought, existing in spaces between spaces, growing, spreading, waiting. For what? For enough of us to return, for enough seeds to ripen, for Earth's garden to yield full harvest. Then the city would descend, would enfold Earth, would transform everything. Not invasion. Homecoming. The hands pulled harder. I felt my human form slough away like snakeskin, like costume, revealing what had always been beneath. I stepped through. The portal closed behind me. On the other side, soldiers unfroze, gasped, looked around confused. Where I'd stood, empty snow, and single wet red footprint, steaming in February cold. Nothing else. I was gone. Final testimony, found in sealed file, declassified 2079. This document was discovered in KGB archives. The handwriting matches redacted, alleged 10th member of Dyatlov expedition. Official records show only 9 members. No 10th member existed. No one survived. Yet this exists. In margins, in script that doesn't match any known human language, a final message. I'm writing this from the other side, from home, from where we all came from before the forgetting. Transformation is complete. I remember everything now. Who we are, why we're sent, what harvest means. There are others planted, waiting, growing. You might be one. You feel it, that wrongness, that sense you don't belong. Dreams of falling upward, of geometric light, of voices calling from stars. When you feel the call, and you will, don't fight. Fighting only delays, makes transformation worse. I'm waiting on Kholat Syakhl, in place between, in chamber beneath mountain where sphere pulses. We're all waiting, all harvests, all seeds, all who remembered. Your turn will come. Mountain knows your name. Dead mountain, where dead return, where living becomes something else, where you'll come eventually. We'll be expecting you. See you soon. The city grows, earth ripens, harvest approaches. The city wait. Do you feel it? That pressure in your chest? That hum in your bones? 3:47 a.m. approaches. They're counting. 1, 2, 3. Are you sure you're human? Really sure? Check your x-rays. Look for the shadow, left of the heart. Growing, always growing. See you on the mountain. The end. Or the beginning. Listen carefully at 3:47 a.m. In the deep silence, you'll hear it. The mountain, calling your name, reminding you what you really are, welcoming you home.